All right, guys, here we are. This is Andrew. Uh, Thanks for watching this video, and I hope this helps you with anything you want to cook as far as Puerto Rican dishes go. To make Puerto Rican food, there is something you need to master, and that is sofrito. Now, you can always buy sofrito in a store, but it's never going to be as good as homemade. And the truth is, it's not that hard to make your own sofrito. So let's get into it. Now, if you cook a lot, you can make this in bulk, like I said, or we can just go with a little amount, save it, and then use it for the week. But if you're going to do that, what I'm going to say is roughly I go 1 to 1. I go 1 to 1 to 1. So I use a bulb of garlic, 1 whole onion, 1 green pepper. That's the start. I'll probably use about 4 to 5 of these, a bunch of cilantro, and a bunch of recao, and that would be a much smaller amount, but a more manageable amount that you don't have to worry about freezing or anything like that. If you want to go per day and cut it up as needed, then you can pick however much you want to add. But for me personally, I am fond of the greens and I'm fond of the garlic. My one grandmother used to love the taste of onions, so hers was a little bit more heavy on onion. My other grandmother was more fond of the green stuff, so she would use more of the cilantro, more of the recao, and her sofrito was very green. I find that I kind of do a mix of both. My balance is probably more onion than my one grandmother, but less onion than my other grandmother. Again, this is all about flavor profile and what you like. So as you're making it, and as you try this out, you can always pick and choose how much of what you want to add. So we're going to be using yellow onion. We're going to be using cilantro. Sofrito requires a lot of garlic. We're going to be using green bell pepper. There are 2 items which are going to be harder to find, and one of them is these little peppers here. Now, if you look at it, it looks like a habanero. This is not a spicy pepper, though. This is a sweet pepper. If you can't find that one, you can find a replacement. So if you can't find these little ahis here, you can find a replacement. I've used Cubanelle peppers. That one's a little bit more of a readily available pepper in your normal grocery store. Now, you might have trouble finding this leaf, which is called culantro, or as we know it, recao. If you can't find it, this one's a little easier to omit. Basically, all you're going to do is kind of like double up on your cilantro basic. Most people that don't like cilantro say that it tastes like soap. I don't know if the recao or the culantro has the same kind of like aftertaste or that difference in profile that can be picked up. But I would recommend, if you are someone who doesn't like the taste of cilantro, you can try the recao if you can find this and use only this. Now, when it comes to using the cilantro, I'm going to use pretty much everything. Any little brown pieces that don't look all that great, I'll get rid of them and discard them. Any of these stems that are super, super chunky here, like this one, I'll get rid of that. That'll add a little extra bitterness. Same thing here with the recao. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look for anything that's brown and unappealing, but I'm pretty much going to use this whole bunch here. I'll snap it in half. Good to go. Alright, so now when it comes to the garlic, I'm going to use about, for this recipe, 4 bulbs. Now, I wouldn't recommend using garlic. You know, the little mint stuff in the jar. I wouldn't recommend that. If you're going fresh, you might as well keep everything fresh, right? But I have seen it where they peel these for you, and you can buy them in a little Tupperware, already peeled. Whole, but peeled. If you want to buy that and save yourself the effort, by all means. That is an incredible time saver. But I didn't go that route. mainly because I'm making the bigger one, uh, and I didn't feel like spending $5 per little container of garlic. If I was making a smaller amount, I'd consider it. Pay the extra money and save myself a little bit of aggravation. But since I didn't, again, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to crush it. I don't want to get all that garlic oil all over the blade or anything, but I will cut the little tip off. So cut that little hard piece off. And then if I want to, just a light tap just to break the skin, or I'll kind of wiggle it between my fingers and skin comes right off. So that's what I'll do for all 4 bulbs of garlic. Again, with these green peppers, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to cut it in half. Take out the seeds and the veins. Just like that. See? Doesn't matter. Now again, I'm not too concerned with how big my chunks are because I'm going to be putting this all through a food processor. And back in the day when my grandmother was doing this, she would mince everything by hand. This was an all-day event. She would start in the morning, finish probably sometime after lunch, then make dinner, store the rest of it. So, if you want to go old school, by all means. But I do prefer to use a food processor myself. And there we have it. Everything is in here. The ají dulce, the recao, the cilantro, the onion, the garlic, the green bell pepper. It is all here. And there you go. So that's about the consistency we're going to go throughout. It'll be nice and homogeneous. It'll be all incorporated. We're going to mix it and make sure that everything blends together. All right, and there you go. There goes your sofrito. Got a nice even consistency throughout. The more you add of things like onions and stuff like that, it'll be a little bit more watery. But for me, this is the color I like, this is the look I like, and the best way to know if it needs anything else is to use it. You can put it in a container like this, which if I'm going to plan on using a lot of sofrito, I'll keep a bunch fresh so I can just use and I don't have to worry about thawing it out or anything like that. I've salted it before. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're planning to keep it for a little while. The salt will preserve it, but it'll start to kind of oxidize and make it a little darker. No problem with it. Just I prefer to salt in my dishes as I go. So if you salt your sofrito, just remember that you salted it so that when you go using it forward, you don't have to, you don't ever, over salt anything. But I'm going to keep some fresh like this. But the way that we're used to storing it is we'll use standard ice cube tray. Now, just be cautious. If this is what you're going to do, don't use this for ice. You will not get the sofrito taste out of here as much as you try. Trust me. So if you are going to use this, buy some ice cube trays that are just for this. You can store it in here, freeze it, and then as you need it, pop a cube out or 2, use them as you need, and it's good to go. But this is the way that we've always done it. Obviously, using the food processor makes this a lot quicker of a process. My grandmother, like I said before, she used to mince everything by hand, so this took her a good bulk of the day. So freezing it was always the best thing. I still make it in bulk as well, just because with work and everything, it's hard to kind of whip this stuff up fresh. Also, these ingredients aren't the most readily available in your normal stores, like I was saying before. So I would have to go to the Latin food market to get my ingredients. But each one of these little cubes here is going to roughly amount to about 1 tablespoon of sofrito. So the kind of nice thing about this too is that it also serves as a measuring guide. So for 1 pound of meat, I might use 2 cubes of sofrito. So 2 tablespoons for every 1 pound of meat. For a pot of beans, I might use a tablespoon and a half, so that'll be 1.5 cubes of sofrito, and that'll be my pot of beans. So this is kind of a nice way to make yourself a little measuring guide. But all I'm going to do is fill this up. I'm going to wrap it in some foil or some plastic wrap, cover it, keep it in the freezer. I don't really want to put it in like this because, one, I want to prevent freezer burn. Two, I don't want my freezer to smell like garlic and onions. So covering it kind of keeps that from happening. There you go. There goes my full tray. So I'll cover that, put it in the freezer. So I'll keep doing this until it's all done. And I'm ready to go. So whenever I need it, it's available. So good luck. I hope you enjoy.